Hey everybody, my name is Juan Maturino. I am a developer currently taking the AI Evals for developers and project managers. The reason I'm recording this is because I want to show non-technical people how to set up the basic environment to get up and running for the homework tasks and all the other tasks associated with this course. It can sometimes be daunting, especially if you don't have any background in software engineering, where to start or how to do it correctly. I can't promise I'll show you how to do it correctly, but I'll show you enough to get you going and to be able to learn and make as much use of this platform and course as possible. So let's begin. Uh, One thing to mention is I plan on doing this for all the other homeworks in the course. So if you struggle with coding, feel free to look at these coding videos so you can follow along and learn alongside with me. Um, Anything that I describe, I'll have links to in the bottom. So yeah, let's get started. First things first, I just basically want to cover some of the fundamental things that we should know before we start on our coding endeavor when it comes to this course. So one of the very first things we're gonna have to figure out is something called Git. Now, what is Git? Git is a tool used by developers worldwide. There are different um, alternatives to Git, but Git by and far is the most widely used tool for developers worldwide. And essentially, what it is, it's a version management tool. So you can think of it as when you're on a Word document and you look at the very top corner, how you can click on that top corner and it shows you the different versions of the Word document that you've done. Git is that, but for developers. Um, I'm oversimplifying it, but I just want to give you a conceptual idea of what it's doing under the hood. Um, for a developer, and now for you, it allows you to share code, store code, and share edited code to other developers or project managers. If you want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into learning Git, there's a cool little website called learngitbranching.js.org that I highly recommend. But one thing I want to get very clear from the very beginning, which was confusing to me early on in my career, is that Git is not GitHub. Let me repeat that one more time. Git is not GitHub. Your best self knows this. So if you don't know this right now, you're not your best self. Your best self knows this. Git is not GitHub. Um, the idea or the analogy would be that as email is to Gmail, Git is to GitHub. Email is a protocol that's used by different providers like Gmail or Outlook, um, and they use that protocol to provide a service to all their users. Similarly, Git is a tool, and GitHub built a whole company around that tool to make it easier for developers to use that tool, among a bunch of other things now. So that's just something I want to get out of the way. I won't be teaching you Git. I'll show you enough to get through. But when it comes to all the intricacies about how it works, it's just too much to cover in this short amount of time. And it's not necessary for you to gain the skills and knowledge that Hassan and Shiria are teaching us. So yeah. But you do need to set up Git first. So to begin with, you need to be able to basically go to an LLM and ask it how to set up Git for my local machine. Um, for your convenience, I actually have a gist where I'm going to be shared down below. And if you click on it, it'll give you step-by-step processes to take in order to install Git if you don't have it on your machine. Um, it's all on the command line, um, but um, it shouldn't be too difficult. It also would be useful for you to have a GitHub account. It's not necessary, but moving forward, if you ever plan to continue to tinker with code, you're going to want a place to store it in the long run. And having it on GitHub will be just a good way for you to kind of um, get in the habit of best practices when it comes to software engineering and software development. The next thing that we need to discuss is Python. So there are a bunch of different types of computer languages that are languages that we use to convert our thoughts into computer code that the computer can run and execute. One of them is a program called or a language called Python. Um, if you're running Mac, it actually comes pre-installed onto your computer, um, but you don't want to use that. And for a myriad of different reasons, you don't want to use the pre-installed system Python that's on your computer. And so what we need to do is to basically have a tool that makes it seamless for us to download dependencies that we might need and to manage those dependencies. This is where I deviate a little bit from the course material because the course material doesn't really describe any of this. Um, they do have a virtual environment, but for non-technical people, it'll be a little bit more difficult to understand. So essentially, below here, I have a little link to a command line tool that will more or less do everything that you need out of the box. I'll show you how to use it through our demo. Um, but basically, just go to that link and you'll be able to follow. It's two different commands. One if you're on Mac or Linux, another command if you're on Windows, and it'll install the whole command line. It's really useful, and it's what um, most Python developers recommend now. We're ready, and in the spirit of my spirit animal, let's moo and move on to the actual coding. So let's move here. So I'm gonna give you a quick little um, preview of some of the links I showed you before we start. So this is the website that I discussed before, the Git branching website. If you want to go a little bit more in depth into learning Git, it's really fun. It doesn't take too long. I would highly recommend this. This is the gist that you will see if you go to the steps to install Git onto your computer. Um, so there's that. This is the GitHub page for that command line that will help you to manage Python packages. And all you really have to go down to is either to run this command in your terminal or this command in your PowerShell on Windows. Those two commands. If you have any questions, please reach out and I'll be able to help you a little bit more with that. So with that out of the way, let's go to the GitHub repo that stores all this code. Like I said, GitHub is a platform that's used by developers to store and share their code. And so, as you see here, uh, from the AI Evals course team, we have our first homework assignment, our first the repo that's going to store our homework assignments. We can do two things at this point. We can either go here and fork the repo, which basically means that we can have our own little copy on our GitHub account if you have that to play around with um, and to store for your heart's content. Or we can go straight and just copy the code from this this repo by clicking here. So going to code and clicking here. One call out to mention is depending on how you set up your Git command line tool, um, it's dependent on if you're going to use HTTPS or SSH. I believe so just be aware of that. If you have any issues with setting up Git and doing this next command, just reach out to me and let me know. I'll be able to help you out. So now that we have this URL that's associated with this repo, we're going to go to our favorite, any of your favorite code editors. I normally would go to a command line terminal, but just for ease of sake, I'm going to jump over to Cursor since it's kind of hot right now. And I don't use Cursor a lot, but I'm going to do this as if I never use Cursor because I basically never use it. So funny enough, we have a little button here called Clone Repo. So if you click that, it says Clone from GitHub, remote sources. So provide repository URL or pick a repository source. So let's paste that uh, URL that we just copied from Git. Now, if you read here, it says clone from URL. So this actually maps one-to-one to an actual GitHub command, a Git command, sorry. So if we click here, it's going to prompt us to select where we want to place it. Right now, just for sake, I'm going to place it in my desktop, but I would recommend if you do want to get more into it, more into software development, you do something like Workspace where there's a hierarchy to how you store your code. So GitHub, and then you would have a subdirectory based on the different types of accounts you have on GitHub. So these are my different types of different accounts that I have on GitHub. Um, but to make it simple, I'm going to put it in desktop, cloning Git repository to GitHub Evals AI course. So it's doing this right now. Um, it's taking a little bit too long. I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to show you how to do it in your terminal, just in case this isn't occurring. So what you can do, let's see. So what you can do is open up the terminal. So this is the out of the box terminal that you get from Mac, um, from Apple, I mean. So when you open this up, you're gonna be in your root directory for your user account. So what you want to do is do cd desktop. So now you're in your desktop folder. You're gonna do git clone, and you're gonna paste that URL that we previously copied from GitHub. You normally don't have to enter a passphrase, but I set it up for added security. Um, so now we've seen that it's copied in. If we check with an ls, which basically lists all of the documents in our current directory, we see here recipe chatbot. So now what we're going to do, now that we have it downloaded, we could continue with our terminal, but I'm going to jump back here to cursor and I'm going to go to open projects. I'm going to go to desktop, recipe chatbot, and press open. Huzzah! Now we're where we want to be, and we have the code in front of us. So if we go to homework one, we go to README. So right now, I wonder if you can see. So usually you're able to see the markdown edited. Um, so right now, this is just the raw version of the markdown, but sometimes editors show the like pretty version of the markdown, the rendered version of the markdown. But essentially here, if we go here, this is this README. So if you go to homework one README dot markdown, what you're seeing here is the steps necessary to um, uh, finish the homework assignment. And what we want to do, we first want to read this. So if we go to backend utils, so if we go backend here, utils, system prompt, this is where we're going to want to spend the majority of our time. Um, all of this other code we really don't really need to understand. All we really need to understand is that this system prompt for our homework for all intents and purposes, is the most important part of our homework assignment. So after reading this, basically our homework talks about how to write a well-defined system prompt. And what it wants us to do, it wants us to, step number one, to write an effective system prompt. So I'm going to take the system prompt that I wrote in my first attempt. Um, Here. And I am going to paste it in our cursor code. Okay. So essentially what I've done here, without going into the details, I basically just went through step one of the homework. So writing an effective system prompt. Step two, we want to expand and diversify our query database. So essentially, this is part of the process that we learned about this week, where we want to have a great understanding and close the gap in from the gap of comprehension. So essentially, like understanding what our inputs are, understanding what our potential outputs are, and their relation between those two. And so that's essentially what we're trying to do here. Um, so if we go to open data.csv, sample queries.csv, we essentially they essentially want us to create more potential user queries that we can test, so that we can see how our system prompt responds to these user queries. So again, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to copy the previous ones that I have made. It's not hard. It's just that I could do this all over again, but I'm strapped for time right now. So I'm just going to be copying and pasting. Okay. So we have that. Let's see what it asks us to do. So now we've actually, up to this point, we haven't touched any Python code for the most part. All we've done is we've added a system prompt, which is basically just typing like a paragraphs and editing a CSV file. So now this is the first time where we're actually going to run a Python script, and it's Python script bulk test.py. We're going to run into a couple of issues, and we're going to debug them together. Let's see if they have a terminal. So most IDEs, basically most text editors now have a terminal window where essentially it's the same thing as doing this, but it's inside of the video, the code editor. Give me 1 second, please. So I'm just gonna paste the command they told me to write, right? That should work. Bah. Wrong. There's a lot of different things. The first thing is called import light LLM. It's basically complaining that we don't have this package installed. Now, what we could do pip install light LLM, but don't do this. Do not do this. Please do not do this. The best version of you does not do this. And if you do this, it's gonna hurt me. I'm gonna have nightmares about this. Please don't do this. We installed that little command line tool, correct? In the previous steps. Even though I didn't show you how to do it, you should do this. So the tool is called UV, Um, and essentially, what it's doing, it's creating an isolated box around your code so that whatever you install in this box stays in this box. In technical terms, this is called a virtual environment for all your Python dependencies and packages. Um, this is a whole side of software development and that we could take a wrap we could spend a lot of time on. Um, but just know that this command is creating a little box, an isolated box that you can install dependencies in, and it won't affect any other things on your computer. So what we want to do is called, I think it's called, the command's called uv init. So uv init, that's the first command we want to run. And then because this uh, repo from the AI eval team isn't wasn't designed with UV in mind, we have to install the dependencies that they have for this packet for this repo via UV. And so the way we do that is called we type UV pip install .r requirements.txt. And all this is doing, it's saying, telling the UV command line, use pip, which is the basic Python dependency tool. We're going to install it, and we're going to install all of the dependencies defined in requirements.txt, which is a file down here. So if we run that, it is basically um, adding all of those packages to uh, UV, I believe. No, actually, no. What we have to do instead is not install. I think it's called pip add. Mm, UV pip. Let's see. This sounds ChatGPT. Yeah, so I ran this, but it didn't do anything. Let's see, maybe I have to run a different command as well. Mhm. I did this before. Okay, that's it. So it's uv add requirements.txt. So but essentially what that does, it copies the requirements.txt to the prior to UV so that UV manages the dependencies. So now what we do is we do UV install or UV run. So the previous command that we had, the one that we were told to run for our homework assignment, where is it? Um, so now what we do is we write UV run and run. So, oh, geez Louise, what's happening here? So essentially what we're not doing is we're not providing the required access um, token to our LLM provider to make those LLM calls because ChatGPT, because OpenAI and Anthropic, they have to be paid, right? Um, and so what we're going to be doing is, as it says here, we're going to copy this file to .env and fill in your credentials. So we're going to copy, we're going to actually do it in the command line, the terminal. We're going to do copy env dot example to .env. So now that we run that command, there we go. We have a .env file here. So essentially what we want to do is um, we want to put the model name. So we want to put the provider and the model name here as well. Something that they don't describe is that um, we need to show what the model name is. And Light LLM has docs that describe what models you can use. So if we go to supported providers and models, we can go to different ones. I'm gonna go to Anthropic. And if I want to use Claude Sonnet 3.5, I need to copy this whole string. So I need to first put Anthropic here. So when I go back to the model name, I put Anthropic for the provider, and then I grab that and I paste it in there. Um, One thing to note is that you shouldn't share your keys. So you're gonna have to generate these keys from the provider's websites. Anthropic has a API key generating a generation page. So does OpenAI. So do all of these different providers. You do not, for the life of yourself, you do not want to put this key on the internet. You want this key to be stored somewhere safe, and you don't want to share it with anybody else because if they have this key, they can make requests to the providers, and it's going to cost you money. So unless you like spending money and giving free things to people, which is great, and we love you for that, I wouldn't recommend it. So I'm not going to share that with you, but essentially, once you do that, um, you're going to go back. You're going to run this command with uv run python script slash bulk test.py. And what you're going to get back is something like this. I got to copy the script, Python. Boom. And this is what the end result should look like. Again, my name is Juan Maturino. I hope this helps a little bit. And yeah, I hope you have a great day. And look forward to chatting with you guys in the Discord and on X. Right. Take care.